Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies podcast. In today's episode, we'll be talking pretty much all about Brian Rice. Handed in his resignation the last week, a decision that seemed to come completely out of the blue. So we're looking back at Brian Rice's time at Hamilton and also looking ahead to what appointment could we make next and how important that decision is for the club and for the fans going forward. So, David, I'll come to you first. It popped up completely out of the blue on our newsfeed. What was your immediate reaction when you saw it?
Aye, it was a surprise. I mean, I did say to you, I think it was a fortnight ago after one of your interviews with him, where I said this guy looks desperate. I think it was after the Albion Rovers game, where we were asking about signings, and it just had a tone of desperation in his voice, and it did make me say to you, I felt a wee bit bad for this guy. He looks like he's totally out his depth. I don't even think he's enjoying it anymore. So obviously it was still a shock to hear the news, but that was the first thing I thought of. Just a couple of those last interviews when you look at him and it just seemed like probably reading into it too much, but I think maybe there's some promises been made to him that like maybe signings or things like that in the past and they've maybe not followed out and maybe that's what it is, but it looks like he was way out his depth and maybe just couldn't handle it. It was going to go one way or another when you have a guy who's a very experienced number two taking the top job. He's either going to deal with it or he's not, and it's turned out the latter.
And Brandon, what about you? What was your reaction when you heard that news?
Obviously, extremely surprised. I don't think anybody knew it was coming. I think you saw the tweet from one of the journalists at Lancashire Live saying interviewed him at, I think it was like 12:50 or something, seemed fairly happy and cheerful, talking about possible transfers in the game against Partick Thistle. And then 3 o'clock, he's resigned.
Yep.
So there's something that's either there's something's happened in that 3-hour window that we don't know about, in my opinion. It's clear. It's been clear as day that he has been struggling recently, and you can see that in some of his interviews. And it's not nice to see, regardless if it's your manager or no. If somebody's struggling with things, it's really not nice to see, and you don't wish that on anyone. But as David says, is there something maybe about false promises that's maybe playing into the part? Because there's a 3-hour period within there that they finished training at Steps. He's came back to NDP and it comes out he's resigned. So there's something within that period maybe happened that we don't know about. But it'd be a bit weird for him to resign when he's in a job. He's not particularly doing that well in the job. Maybe he's just struggling being with the top dog. We know he's a good coach. He's had a brilliant career in football. He's handled being a coach all these years. Maybe he just can't handle the sort of pressure as being the number one. And like I've said, I wish him all the best, and hopefully you do see him back in football, because some of the stuff you've possibly heard, it's no nice to hear, and you hope that's not the case. But it was a shock to the system. But now it gives us a good opportunity to bring someone in, bring a new face in, and I'm sure we'll touch on that a bit later on. But I think we need to sort of talk about his tenure at the club before we move on to possible new ventures.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw the news, it was, as we've said, a complete shock. And as you've said, Brandon, the fact that he was interviewed early in the afternoon, looking forward to the bounce game they've got with Partick Thistle, still looking at signings, and then suddenly he's gone. That does tell me that there's something that's happened. It's either been playing in his mind and he's just went, like, today's the day I'm going to go do it, or there's been a promise made or a promise broken, and he's thought that's it. That's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that's caused it. Let's be honest, Hamilton is the safest job in the world. We say it with every manager we get, basically. Hamilton aren't going to sack somebody. That very, very rarely happens. So the fact he's resigned tells me there's something going on behind the scenes, but we don't know. That is speculation. Looking at his time at Hamilton, when he came in, it was quite exciting. You know, we got rid of Martin Canning, we're getting this number two in. He hasn't had a number one job before, but he's been at all these clubs. Nobody can speak highly enough of him. He promises his attacking football, and I would say we got that for maybe the first few weeks. and then it kind of dwindled out, and then we started seeing 7-8 defenders on the park and stuff like that. So that's the biggest thing that it sounds bad to say, that's the biggest thing I'll remember for Brian Rice taking over, is being promised attacking football and it not being delivered. That was my biggest thing. What about you guys? What stands out to you?
The big thing for me was the optimism and hope, like you say. And I think the best moment for me was that first game. I mean, bringing in George Oakley the day, was that not the same day he signed?
Yeah.
Brings in George Oakley, pay money for a striker. You look and you see tweets about Inverness fans sad to see him go. He then scores a double in his debut. It's a convincing win against a better team than us. And there you go. You think, here we come. We're actually going to do pretty well. He's got the big thing that just came into my head there was, we've talked about this wealth of contacts he had. And it's going to be a different calibre of signing coming in now because people are going to want to work with him. That turned absolute bullshit. Like, nothing like that ever materialised. Wasn't even a hint at it. So, like, the best part for me was the optimism that came with that and that first result. The worst part was just everything that followed. Nothing changed. Probably could argue we played better football under Cannon at times. When you think of the football at the Easter Road
It's one of those ones where it's a small margin if there is one, you know.
But it is a small margin, but probably we were a better team. I mean, the big thing that when I was thinking about it is, like, at our level in Scottish football, it is all about utility players. You're going to need the odd player to cover the odd positions. When we were under Martin Cannon, Grant Gillespie was the perfect example of that. But since we've had Brian Rice, every player is playing out a position. How many is probably more than not? We've got a guy covering a position he's not comfortable in, or like it became something totally normal to us. I just don't understand. In reflection, we didn't improve in the slightest. And there's times where I actually do think in the last 2 seasons in the Premiership, we've actually had better squads than we've had the years before. And like, I think last year we did have a good enough squad to stay up, but there wasn't reflected that in the results or the performances on the park. And you got to say that's down to the manager.
At the end of the day, it all does fall down to the manager. If we're being honest with you, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. We don't know if he's getting promised this or if he's getting told this and this is what you're working with. But he's not telling. Like, if he isn't, it's up for the manager to come out and say, "Well, this is what I'm working under. This is all I can sort of do." He didn't do that. So, at the start he was saying he was going to bring us a lot of attacking football. We saw that for the first month, I'd say, and then that slowly but surely just died off. I'm not going to compare him to his predecessor because I hate when people do that. Because it was a terrible time to support Accies within that period, if we're being honest. But so is the past, whatever, 2.5 years it was whilst he was in tenure. So, no, it wasn't good. We get relegated. He's the one that was in charge when the cockroach of Scottish football managed to disappear. A lot of memories from the time when he was in charge. Not good memories. Some good memories, but it's certainly a time where I don't think any Accies fan will ever forget when Brian Rice was in charge, because so much happened. Some out with Brian Rice, i.e. COVID, and stuff like that, but it's certainly a period in Accies history that nobody will ever forget. More so for negative aspects rather than positive things. And
just quickly, if we can pick out 2 memories from his time, I'm going to ask you for the best memory under Brian Rice and then the worst memory under Brian Rice while he was manager. Brandon, I'll come to you first this time. What would be your favourite and least favourite moment?
I mean, I think favourite moment, we're about to show a clip, but my favourite moment is probably, I think it's just sheerly down to the comedy aspect. And the fact that I wake up every morning to a voice clip with the exact same thing for what you're about to see. So this is probably my funniest sort of memory of Brian Rice.
I tell you what, so I seen the same referee at Dumbarton and no give a penalty. He gave a penalty here the day for less. We're getting nothing. We're getting absolutely nothing. I know shouting these lads, I'm angry. And I'm fed up boring Crawford, Allen, and getting pushed to the side because we're only fucking hammering.
No, but all joking aside, I'd probably say best moment. It has to be Ibrox, beating them during the week. Just watching videos of that back, people, all the Rangers fans comfortably saying they're going to 5-1, blah blah blah. Just that memory will stick with me forever. My mate Moyo scoring as well. Aye, that has to be his best moment. That or Motherwell 2-1. There's no many big moments to talk about. It's probably the best, but I'd go with for the comedy aspect. It has to be his rant after St Mirren. For best moment, has to be Ibrox. Worst moment, I'd probably say the second time around against Annan. Annan Stranraer I was thinking about there. But I remember attempting to watch the Annan one in Manhattan, and we're getting notifications about the goals coming in, and honestly I've never felt as deflated and as bad about an Accies team as I had in a long while after that game. And it was only a during the week game, it was only a small cup game, but to get absolutely pumped off the team that just seemed to be our arch nemesis and can't beat, and they should never be that arch nemesis because the standard's so different. I'll go for either Stranraer and in the last year.
And David, what about you? Best and worst moment under Brian Rice?
I think I'd have to go with what I've already touched on. The best moment for me was the optimism that followed his appointment and that first result. George Oakley all coming in that one short period, actually thinking the status quo of how we've been doing things is going to change, because that is the big thing that's been my gripe for years now, that we were always aiming to do the bare minimum, and it felt like that was changing. And then the worst moment is just all those points that made you realise it's not. Like you say, the falling at the hurdles of the Scottish League Cup, the interviews that just kept repeating themselves about, oh, they couldn't have done any better even though we were getting beat. And like, this is going to change and this doesn't change. And we're always looking for 2 or 3 more. And just getting kind of realising you're just in the same rut as you were. And this is just an absolute failure. And like Brandon said, it's the safest job in football. So, I mean, we're never going to sack a guy. So the opportunities present itself now is we don't have to pay off his contract. Take advantage of this, because it's been an absolute waste of time for us, if we're being honest. And I just think the whole thing has been my worst moment, because it could have been so much better, but it wasn't.
What's your best moment?
Like you say, you can't really argue the Ibrox result or the Motherwell results. But probably Ibrox. You can't take that away from him. When you look at the circumstances and the stature of the two clubs. But there isn't many to choose for, we've been honest.
Yep.
And Ben, what about yourself? Your worst moment, or even any, obviously give us your worst moment and any other moments that perhaps stand out for his tenure.
Worst moment, I have to say the 8-0 against Rangers. Like, that was just seeing that team in the lineup. I knew that it wasn't going to go. I know, Brandon, you've said about, you posted about, losing 8-0, and I remember seeing it, but seeing that lineup and thinking, this is the strongest team we've got going to Ibrox, by the way. This is it. Like, you knew it wasn't going to go well, and it went even worse than you could have hoped. And then after the game, to have Brian Rice come out and be like, the effort the guys put in was top notch, and you're going, you've just thought, how, like, no effort when you lose 8-0 was good enough. So I would say that's my worst. That's the worst I felt by an Accies team. Annan comes close, but when you said that, best moment, the only reason I'm not going beating Rangers is because I wasn't there, and it's a fucking massive regret. But that's the only reason I'm not going that, is because of that. But I would go with the 2-1 New Year's Eve Motherwell win. Fuck, I mean, 1-0 down. He made positive changes at the break, positive attacking changes at the break, and it made a difference. Having Aaron McGowan come and salute us in front of the fans and all that was brilliant as well. So those would be my two. But as David said, there's not a huge amount to pick from best moments, let's be honest. I mean, to look ahead now to what happens, because we're in a strange predicament. As David said, we don't need to pay off his release, so we're in a fresh start mindset. We can go out and get somebody totally different. It's just we don't know what the club's going to go for. But as we've been seeing on social media, and as other fans have been saying as well, this appointment could not be bigger. With the relationship with the fans and the club, with the players, with the fucking just the club status in general, this could not be bigger. Because as we were saying just before recording, Brandon, if they don't get this decision right, they're going to lose so many fans that are already losing interest. You know what I mean? If they make an appointment that the fans don't agree with, or if they make an appointment that doesn't look as if they've got the correct intention in mind, they're going to lose fans. And fans have already stated that they're losing them at this stage anyway. So, I mean, I know that you see this as the most important decision of the last however many years.
Oh, I could not tell you. I couldn't, like I've said on Twitter, you can't understate how important this decision is. Forget all your past choices of who you've brought in as manager. Completely forget your past. This is the present. I cannot state how huge this is. I think the ASA's open letters completely says it all. They didn't have to say more, didn't have to say less. I think it says it all. But honestly, you cannot understate how huge this is. Both, as you said, fan-wise, for we're saying whatever it takes. We want to take whatever it takes to go back up. This is your opportunity to show that. It's just there's so many people that just now that are feeling so disengaged and disheartened with Accies. There's so many people that are already gone because how disheartened they've been with Accies. This is an opportunity for Accies to bring these people back. We've lost so many fans in the Cannon and the Rice era, so many that have just became so disillusioned with everything the club's done and everything that's been happening, because it's not been a particularly good time. Who wants to go and watch a football team that's average win percentage is 20% for the past 6-7 years?
Pretty much.
Nobody. And we're not saying it should be very much higher when we're in the Premier League or whatnot, but forget the past now. This is a huge opportunity. If they get this right, they'll bring fans back. Even if it's not a success, if they're seen to bring in a name that fans are thinking, well, we didn't really expect that. We were expecting them to go with the basic, which we'll touch on, what we're expecting in a minute. But if fans will come back, you'll get more seats, you'll get more people think, well, they've actually listened for a change. Maybe they are actually wanting to rebuild this relationship. Maybe they are actually putting the football club to the forefront of their mind. But if they get this wrong and they're seen to be picking a Boozy or a Cairns or Easton or Temps, if they go with what all the fans think's going to happen, you're going to lose so many fans. There's so many people that are thinking, you know what, fuck this, they couldn't give a fuck. Everyone is voicing what they want and what they think needs to happen. They're already in a shaking hell, and it's just, I can't understate how big this decision is. They really need to get it right, and I hope they do get it right, because they have started to open up a bit more of the club. They have started to communicate a bit better. Things do seem to be getting slightly better, although what some other people might think. I just think this needs.
Yep.
I could go on for another rant for about 2 hours solely on how important this is. I don't want it because I'll get very passionate. But no, honestly, if they get it wrong, they're fucked.
Yep.
They'll lose so many people that won't care. I'm on a level just now where I really want them to get it right, so it can just make this season a lot better. Because don't get me wrong, if they make a decision and perhaps it's one which we perceive to be correct, and it goes tits up, the guy loses God knows how many games and we finish mid-table, so be it. But get this right so the fans can perceive it as a good decision, because then if it goes wrong, you can say, well, this is what you wanted, and the fans can't really complain at that, because that's what the fans want.
Yep.
So they really need to get this right.
To add on to what Brandon's just said, the perfect point there at the end is we all know that they'll be thinking about a Boozy or a George Cairns because we want to promote within and we want to give people opportunities they wouldn't get. But the last, 7, 8 years, that's no worked. So it's no that, we don't support you doing that, but there's a point where you've got to sit and do, well, listen, this hasn't worked. So it's no that Brandon's saying, let's get a name in. If it doesn't work, then we've had a chance. You need to do that because what you're doing now, how long is it going to take? Because it's not that, like, I understand what Brandon's saying is fans will lose they'll lose fans. Because even I'm starting to think, like, what is the point here then? What are we aiming to do or be? Are we just taking part? Like, it's one of those points where you've got to say, listen, what you're doing is not working. You need to do it's not that we know better, but I mean, I'm not a football guy, but I can see that's not working. And I know that what could improve that. It's just, surely they know this.
I think they're scared to change. I think they're scared of going out with their norm. I think they're scared of, I don't like using the word puppet, which does get used a lot, but that's how a lot of fans, they perceive it. And to be fair, it's hard to argue with them sometimes because it is hard to argue. I think they're scared to come out of their normal zone.
I think
I can't say how important this decision is, and I just think go for what the fans want. Please just go for what the fans want. If it doesn't go right, let the fans take the rap for it, and I'm sure fans will say, right, okay, you perhaps maybe wanted to go through within internally, and you wanted to give someone a chance that normally wouldn't get a chance out with Hamilton Accies, but that's not what the fans want, and the fans have not wanted that for some time. And Rice was from without Accies, fair enough, but it wasn't one that any fan could have said that they wanted or they known about. Just please listen to the fans with this one. Give them what they want, because you're going to lose so many people. It's going to have a knock-on effect with so much things as well. It's just, you might lose fans that are already there. You're going to lose pathways that could maybe perhaps bring fans that aren't even there now. And there's so many opportunities just now that this will lead on to, that I just hope they get it right. I hope they get it right.
I think an example of what Brandon's saying there, of things that have went wrong and had a lasting effect on a club, is you've got to look at Clyde. See, back in the day when Clyde were a first division team, they were always there or thereabouts, mid to top of the table, always making decent moves, performing well. Then it just went downhill and downhill. And now they're a League One club with a League One crowd and League One prospects. They've had that many chances and they've not taken them, and that is where they are. The fans have just stopped going. They used to sell out the home stand at Broadwood, and they used to, like I say, have a good following. I knew a few, but it's one of the things where it's just, I mean, it's the same thing. Like if Falkirk have another season like they did, their numbers will start dwindling. We don't have the numbers to start with. So we're going to start having an average home crowd at less than 500.
They've already dwindled far much than they should ever have dwindled before, especially for being a team that was in the top flight. This is a chance for them to salvage something. That's how I see it. This is their chance to salvage something. Give the fans that are currently there, that are thinking about leaving, the reason not to leave. You're seeing on social media, everybody saying, will we be able to get refunds back in our season tickets and whatnot? And that's honestly, there's so much fans have left over the years recently, and their support's dwindled so much. Surely they can see that if they get this wrong, it's just going to. We're already renowned for being this team with barely any fans. If they get this wrong, then I don't know what's going to happen.
No. One thing I do want to just ask you guys about before we go in to look at the favourites for the job, which we'll dissect a little bit, is this hashtag no to Boozy that's been going around, against another internal appointment. It's something that I agree with. Boozy's not the guy. Boozy's not that guy to take us forward. He's not the guy I want appointed, and the same with George Cairns as well. I think, I can't speak for everybody, I can speak for myself. I think an internal appointment, as you guys have said, isn't the right way to go. We need a fresh face, fresh ideas. And if they do appoint internally, that showcases to me a lack of ambition, which is our biggest thing. This hashtag whatever it takes. If they announced George Cairns is doing it on a permanent basis, congratulations, George Cairns. I'm going to sit there and go, what's the point in us sitting here for all this time talking about it and getting our hopes up and all that if you're just going to appoint a guy from within the club? It just shows a serious lack of ambition if that's the road they go.
What I have to say is, though, these people that are internally are good at their jobs, right?
Absolutely.
George Cairns, academy director, you cannot fault our academy whatsoever, right? You cannot fault it whatsoever. Boozy, for what I'm told, he's maybe been at the club throughout times in which the performances have been shocking. But as far as I'm aware, there's times when he has to stay in the stadium overnight because it's easier for him to stay there because he's worked so late and then work in the morning, coach in the morning, then travel home to Leaf the next day. These are people that have been committed at their job and have done well at their jobs. But that being said, that's their jobs. They're not managers. They're not people who should be in a number one position, which has been shown with Martin Cannon and Brian Rice. They were not number one people. They were not managers. They were not people with fresh ideas. We need someone new in. You can have people internally that are good at their jobs, which clearly these people are because our academy is brilliant. We've got coaching. They're clearly good at coaching. They're clearly good with the kids. They're clearly they do their jobs well, and they've put us academy-wise. George Cairns is along with people that have been there previously have changed the dynamic of everything. But that's not to be said that new faces and new people and people to add on to that isn't the way to go. Internally, just promoting someone, and even not saying promoting, putting someone in a new role isn't how you make someone better at the role. If someone's really good at their role, you don't need to sort of reward them by promoting them into a different role. You keep them in a role and promote them in other different ways. Some people are better for certain jobs than they are other jobs, and these people are better within the jobs they're in now or the jobs they were in previously rather than a number one manager job. We need someone new and we need someone...
A manager?
We need a manager. We need a new dynamic. We need someone to sort of bring in fresh ideas. We need someone out with what we've currently got just now, because one, if we do that, it's just going to be a knock-on effect if previous people have been internally, and two, the backlash you'll get for the internally, as you've already seen on social media. As I keep saying, mate, I can't understate how important this job is, how they get this right, and I really hope they do.
Yeah,
the last manager we brought in was Billy Reid. That's the last time we brought a manager in to do the manager's job. It's not going to take a genius to know that if you bring a manager in who knows how to be a manager on and off the park, results will improve. It's like the difference of when you had your first fucking barber's haircut after lockdown and think, no, he's actually better at cutting my hair than my mom is. Like, it's just going to be the proof will be in the pudding. Like, you bring a manager in, you will see the difference. We've got too many people that have wasted too many times trying to adapt into something that they're not capable of doing. Bring a manager in. I think honestly, on paper, a striker in this team, and we've got the strongest squad in this league, maybe between us and Dunfermline. I would go on and say we've got a stronger squad than Kelly just now, who are apparently the hot favourites and are performing so far. Bring a striker in and get a manager. That squad's capable. Get a good manager in. But I think the reason we're ranting as much as we are is because I think we know what's coming.
So let's look at the managers that are linked with Hamilton right now. The bookies' favourites at the moment is Boozy. He's the favourite 3-1 to take over. We already said what we think about that. Neil McCann, Dougie Emery, John Hughes, Stuart Kettlewell, Stuart Taylor, Alan Archibald, Ian Murray, Stuart McCall, Darren Young and Ray McKinnon fill out the rest of the list. Neil McCann's your second favourite 4-1, Dougie Emery 6-1. That list doesn't fill you with a huge amount of hope, let's be totally honest here. I mean, listen, everybody's dream appointment is Alex Neil. That's everybody's dream appointment, ask any Accies fan. Whether that's realistic or not is another as another story. But let's be honest, that's all our number one choice. Brandon, looking at that list, doesn't need to be on that list, but does anybody in that list interest you? If you get any other names you want to pull out and throw their hat in the ring as well?
I mean, as I was saying sort of before this, usually with all things sort of Accies, I tend to sort of do a bit of research, maybe a bit of digging for potential sort of players and whatnot that we could sign that realistically we probably could. But my mind's already unfortunately made up with what's going to happen, I think. And I'm already letting myself down because I think I know what's going to happen, but I don't want to go and look out the box to make myself even more upset, which I think what's unfortunately going to happen. I really hope it doesn't because I've got a massive opportunity here, like I keep saying. But when I look at that list, obviously Alex Neil is the person that every single Accies fan would want. Like you said, it's perhaps not the most realistic, but as David always touches on, money-wise, I think they underquote and they always like to under sort of estimate themselves of how much money they particularly actually have. So he's been out of football for a while. Maybe he wants to sort of prove a point.
He said he wants to come back up to Scotland at some point.
He wants to come up to Scotland at some point. Maybe Preston perhaps didn't work out fully for him. Maybe if he proves a point by coming and taking this one of the better squads in the Championship and taking them back to the SPL, he'll get himself an even bigger move. Money might not particularly be everything for him. So Alex Neil's your best choice there. But realistically, David said someone there, John Kennedy. He's not on that list. That's for what I've heard. Although he quoted of taking the Celtic job throughout the times when they weren't having their Celtic fans were obviously they fucked up 10 in a row, but as far as I'm made aware, he's a really, really good coach. He's got a lot of similarities to Brendan Rodgers. He's young. He's worked with a big club. He's worked with big names. As far as I'm made aware, like I said, he's a really good coach. He could do a lot worse than that. I just want someone that's got the ethos of attacking, free-flowing football, but can also work with youths. And I think John Kennedy does fall under that remit when you actually take a step back and think about it. Whether he'd leave Celtic is another question, but I genuinely think if you're wanting someone that's going to play attacking football, good at working with youths, John Kennedy does fall under that remit.
All right.
Alan Archibald is another name. He's worked with Thistle with tight budgets. He got them promoted for the Championship. He got them to the top 6 in the Premier League. He kept them in the SPL for a consistent period of time. He would fit the board sort of ethos. It's not a name that's particularly stands out to me, but none of the names bar Neil really does. But they're two names that I'd probably divulge in and maybe look a bit further into. Barry Ferguson as well, if I'm being honest with you. I don't know what it is about Barry Ferguson. I don't know if it's a personal point of view, but no, I like him. He done a good job at Kelty. Obviously, his budget was far superior to anybody else's, but he's attacking football. I think he's meant to be a good coach. For what I hear in some of the podcasts I listen to, he's a really good coach and a really good person to work with. So they're 3 names that I suppose I'd be happy with if it wasn't Neil, which is not going to be Neil, but I don't really want to divulge into many choices because I already know what's going to happen. Aye.
David, what about you? Does MD stand out to you?
I think a really good point that I would like to make on top of something that Brandon's just mentioned is, and it genuinely came into my head there, like, it goes without saying, I would like us to go out and get a promising someone like Alec Neil, have him be here for 5-10 years. That's never going to happen. I would like us to get an established manager. Chances of that happening are slim. But see, when you think of things, especially the last couple of years, it's proven with player recruitment, where see if you do well at Hamilton, you'll be going in a year. You know what I mean? Ross Callahan showed what he can do, going. Hakeem Odoffin showed what he can do, going. Templeton first time around showed what he could do, going. All on to better things because the clubs outside see, listen, all we need to do is flutter the wallet, Hamilton can't compete, they're ours. So see, even if we get an Alec Neil, where we're like, that's unrealistic, at the end of the day, Alec Neil should know if he does well at Hamilton, even if it's just a year or this season alone, as soon as he shows that he's doing well there, the offers will come in and he'll get what he wants. He's probably more likely to get an Aberdeen job or a Hibs or Hearts job if he does that with us now, instead of sitting and taking on a club now. Now, obviously, there's the risk that wouldn't happen. Like, you'll get it and might not do well, but I don't think that would be the case. But I don't see why we can't go get someone like an Alec Neil or a John Kennedy, because they'll know that if they do well at Hamilton, there's no doubt the offer will come in, and we ain't going to stand in their way. We're not going to offer them better terms. I mean, the names that we've talked about, none of them fill me with positivity. None of them show me that we're going to go to the next level. There's better names than others. I mean, probably the most established manager that we could think of that's available is Yogi Hughes. Now, you could say he might not take that out of respect for Brian Rice. He might take it out of respect for Brian Rice. Like, I don't know, but it's the whole mentality at the top down where, like, all the stuff that we've said at all these podcasts, these people that are in these positions in the board and have done so well for themselves in their life, do they not have these thoughts? Like, it's just concerning me. I really don't know what they're going to do. If that was me in charge, I'd be on to Alec Neil saying, listen, you know what you're doing here. This is a club that loves you. You love the club. You do well here. You will get the offers and we won't stand in your way. Do that, and then maybe the next year, John Kemp say, well, look what they did for Alec Neil. You know what I mean? So, I don't know.
What you've said spot on, and that's how I don't think when people say it's an unrealistic choice, I don't think it is. I don't think
he's not getting any offers.
He's not getting any offers. He's not got a club there now. If you're being honest, I don't think that could go any wrong for him. I don't think with that squad that he's got there, it only needs, as we keep saying, one or two signings, and they're one of the strongest, if not the strongest, in the league. With his management skills, if this word gentleman's agreement that's going about in fucking English football all the time now, Accies don't even need to give anybody a gentleman's agreement. Accies give you the platform regardless. If you do well here, Accies fans aren't saying, oh, Alex Neil, come back and stay here, as you say, 5 year, 10 year. Come here, do your job, be successful again, and get yourself back and show that you're a good manager. Because if he gets us promoted, he would get a job. Regardless if he came here or not, he'd get us a job. If he came here and got us promoted, he'd get himself an even better job.
I've said this with like countless times when it comes to player recruitment. When we've talked about, back in January, talked about Thomas Robert and talked about, for example, Dunfermline signing Kevin Nisbet. When they bought him for Rafe, they knew if he had a bagging season, he's there one season, and that's exactly what happened. And this is what we say: buy players we sell on value. If they perform, they know they'll get their moves. Do it with managers and all. You know what I mean? Like, there you go. That's twice now that St Mirren have picked someone they can clearly see is up and coming, and someone who can clearly progress to the next level, and it's worked both times. But I'm sure I'm wrong, but the impression I get is we don't even look that way. We don't even look at stuff like that. We think, up and coming guy, we ain't paying for that. Whereas you surely your brain say, think of the money we could make off him, not the money it'll cost to get him in. But it's that's how I think it is.
What about you, Ben? Is there any names on that you want to maybe divulge a wee bit into?
I mean, I've got the same mindset as you, Brandon, and I get the sense David does as well. As we all kind of know where this is going, and we know that in 2 weeks' time they're gonna announce a Boozy and a Cairns, and all this hope will have been for fucking nothing. Alex Neil, as you've went into, I don't need to go into much more. He's a number one choice. People bringing up like Dougie Imrie and Darian McKinnon and all that. I know they were successful for the under 18s, and that's great. Dougie's just got a first team coaching job at Livy. He's not going to be tempted.
Put it this way: Emery would be my second choice, hands down. There's no point in divulging into him. It's not happening. Simple as that.
He's just got that. So that's a thing. People were talking about the like a dual manager role, like Kettlewell and what's his name did at Ross County, Daz and Doogie. I think that would be a good laugh if anything else, but I think that'd be a decent shout. Yogi Hoos again. Ian Murray from Airdrie was somebody that stood out to me. I like Ian Murray. Worked under tight budgets. I know you guys have said his football isn't attractive and it isn't what we're looking for, and I take that on board. But he's a name that stood out. And then Stevie Crawford was another one that was suggested to me as well. Done well in the championship with Dunfermline. Works under tight budgets. Promotes good youth players, and his recruitment's always been decent. But again, as you guys said, his football isn't exactly the most attacking, the most eye catching. But those were the two that stood out to me.
A name that's been mentioned to me a few times is Petrie for Montrose as well. He's getting very renowned in the lower leagues for being one of the best managers in sort of lower leagues of Scottish football. I think a few clubs have been linked with him, I think Dundee United, and a couple other sort of clubs that got rid of Ross County as well. And I think Falkirk before Sheeran, he's linked with that job as well. People can only speak high words of him. I don't know much about him, if I'm being honest with you. I just know he has done a miraculous sort of job with Montrose. And this is what we're saying. Go and get something new. Go and get new ideas. Go and get something to add to what we've already got. You need to go outside the box. You need to go out with your normal comfort zone. As I keep saying, mate, there's no point in me going on and on and on. It's so important that they get this right. They do something that appeases the fans. They might not appease the fans with their choice, but the fans have says what they don't want. Make sure that you give the fans something that isn't not what they want. That's all I can sort of say on it.
Yeah,
I think I'll add one point onto the end there to kind of give the club the benefit of the doubt. Is I think, and as long as I can remember, this is the first time I've started to see a change in the transfer policy. Every player we've brought in, I think, if I'm right, we've paid money for. Now, big or small money, that doesn't matter. We've paid money because we feel so strongly about these players coming in. Now, it's still early days for a lot of them, but I would say that no one we've recruited so far has stood out as no being good enough. I think we can argue Andy Ryan, Kieran McDonald, Vertanen. These guys have all impressed so far. Early days, that goes. The way I see it is, hopefully that's a sign of we've learned from our mistakes and we're going to do things the right way. Because if they're putting money into this team, you're not going to spend all this money on all these tools and then go for the cheapest workman. You know what I mean? Get the right guy in, because otherwise this positive move they're making with these signings is for nothing. Like you say, it's not like we're going out and buying worldies, but they're better than what we've ever recruited in recent years. And it's a different style of recruitment is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. But you need to match that as well. So if you're putting the money in and saying, listen, we've got a good squad in comparison to this league, let's get the manager in and let's do it. Because you've got to remember, see the teams in the SPL this year. The teams are either much bigger than us or have much more money than us. So if, like, example, a Ross County comes down, they'll buy the league. A team like Motherwell or whatever come down, they're a much bigger club and they'll be the runaway favourites. It's looking ahead as well. You've got to take the opportunity. Like we've said a few times, a good manager takes a squad up. So
new chapter, new era. They've got the opportunity here. Go and prove that you want to go back to the Premier League. Go and prove you want to build the relationship with the fans. That's all we can say.
Preserving money. We've saved money on a payoff for them. So use whatever money you need to do to get them in. You need to start taking risks.
I think the one thing you need to forget is we've just brought in money for a Dolphin as well. I think it's important that we don't forget about the striker. Obviously, the main topic about here is the manager, and I'm sure we'll talk about the striker in the preview, but we've brought in money. The past few years, we've brought in money for... We've just had a payout. We've just had a payout as well for the league for COVID. We've got money there. Please go for the right decision.
Thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments your thoughts on managerial positions. Them they stand out to you from that list, on any other names you can think of. We'll see you in our next video, which will be our preview for our league match against Kilmarnock. We'll have another special guest. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you again soon.